and welcome to Roundtable. This week we're going to be focusing on the controversy around the comment made by RANVEER ALLAHBADIA. He's a YouTuber who also goes by the name of Bare Biceps. We've heard the comments. I don't even want to repeat it, but it's a lewd comment. It's taken. I don't think that it can be taken out of context because it's just there, stark in your face. That has got him in trouble with the police. He's facing a inquiry by the Maharashtra police. But more than that, I think is it time now to draw a line as to what is private, what is allowed, and what all do we as a society listen to? At the end of the day, this conversation that is going around, is it because YouTubers have no editorial content the way we have in the mainstream media? Is that one of the reasons? And of course, how much can we take? What is right, and who gets to decide? That's something I'm going to be talking on the panel today. Joining me is Suhel Seth. He's a columnist. He's a commentator and a marketing guru. We have KAVEREE BAMZAI. She is an author, columnist, and former editor of India Today. And TEHSEEN Poonawala, a lawyer, advocate,
Thanks.
who's also closely following Ranveer's case. Suhail, I'll
I'm a
begin.
friend of his.
And a friend of his. Okay. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and a friend of his. Okay. Someone who's actually saying that. I don't think many people say that on air, right? These days.
I never throw people under the bus. If I'm a friend, I will stand by my friend. And I don't give a damn what people think. You stand by your friends. That's what real people do.
Good to have you on the show. So hey, I'll begin with you first. Where are we on, where do you, I've read your piece also. In fact, the vulgarity vultures, that's a nice title. But what exactly can you explain to us?
So, this piece is out today, and the argument that I've offered is as follows. When we talk about a RANVEER ALLAHBADIA or whoever it is, the point is, Priya, we are consuming their content. When I say we, not me, I didn't even know about this gentleman. But obviously, he has 20 million subscribers. So there are 20 million people who buy, believe, and love his brand of humor. You and I may not agree. Many people didn't agree with Mark Twain and Oscar Wilde in those days. Many people dissed Shakespeare. My problem is that when you accuse a RANVEER ALLAHBADIA, as you must also take into account that the public discourse in India is woefully abusive and abysmal. When politicians, right to the top, are abusing each other in public, it's almost become kosher. It is now acceptable to use foul language. We have seen it on OTTs. I can understand if a character needs to abuse. I've done 167 plays, I've acted in 8 films. You don't necessarily need to abuse unless the character is of a certain mold, of a certain upbringing, and talking to a certain kind of audience where you use MC, BC, all of that. We are on television every day. I've never even used the word bloody. I mean, now I'm using it just to explain. Because A, we know the contours of language. B, we know that we are talking to civilized people and we're talking in a civilized manner. Now, let me tell you about our Indian habit syndrome. We take umbrage too easily when we want to. You know, C.R. Irani of the Statesman many years ago famously said the press in India is as free as it chooses to be. We are also as liberal as we choose to be. Now, the entire ecosystem, I've been told by you before the program began that this gentleman was given interviews or whatever by the high and mighty.
By nearly the entire cabinet,
Obviously,
Suhail.
correct. So obviously, they believed that talking to him would amplify their messaging and would make them popular, whatever it is. But today, he's persona non grata. But do you solve the problem? It's like when you say the police is going to take action, it's operation successful, patient dead. What are you actually doing about the societal malaise that exists in India and not only in India, across the world? Stand-up comics, people on YouTube, people on all these platforms, their only desire, like the desire of television channels, is TRP. Their desire is to get subscribers. Now, do you debase yourself in order to get subscribers? Frankly, it's not your decision or mine. It is RANVEER ALLAHBADIA's decision and whoever else is, in this space. If they believe saying something like this will get them viewership, so be it. Does it actually debase India as a society? The answer is no, because that debasement began a long time ago, when in public discourse, our language had become reprehensible, when people were abusing each other, taking pot shots, being gender abusive. Nashne wali, someone said this, someone said that. So my point is, don't throw the baby with the bathwater. A, B, police action. I mean, it was a private event. He said some things for which he has apologized. Now people will file FIRs. In this country, you can only do two things: file your income tax returns, or you file FIRs. Nothing is going to happen. You think Bombay is got less problems? Now you'll have the entire Bombay police force running after this guy. TEHSEEN said this earlier in the program. All the people who were his friends or who benefited from him will ditch him. But will you actually solve the problem? A, B, what is the problem you want to solve? Do you think people will stop abusing in India? The answer is no. Therefore, do you believe that any channel, platform, oblique channel should allow for this abuse? You choose. Either there's censorship or there's self-regulation. There can't be both. Now, if it's self-regulation, who will decide self-regulation? Because as I said in my article, we have replaced satire and sarcasm with gross abuse. I have fun using satire. I don't need to abuse you in order to make you feel miserable. I have many words at my command to make you feel miserable. I said that of a prominent political leader when someone said, "What is his intelligence levels?" I said, "He's intellectually innocent." A politer way of saying he's an idiot. Now, it depends. You might say that, oh, people in the hinterland won't understand and they like this abuse. So be it. We will only make changes in three ways. A, we become a more responsible society. When I say we, means Priya Sehgal, KAVEREE, BAMZAI, TEHSEEN, POONAWALA, and RANVEER ALLAHBADIA. To say only he should become responsible, but we continue with our debasement is not fair. Number two, to decide as the government or as people, what would you like to see? Do you think his subscriber base will come down? Take it from me as a marketing person, not at all. It will only increase. People now want to see aur kya bolega ye. Number three, do you really want to scare people into submission? This is another form of emergency then. You are creating censorship through the draconian arms of an ineffective governance system implemented by cops. So you choose. The people have to decide. But unless we do all of these three things, to just blame one individual or three individuals or an entire platform, to my mind, is silly and is ineffective.
TEHSEEN, since you are really, I mean, the
Yeah.
man in the, I would say, and someone who knows what is going on in Ranveer's mind, is it a one-off comment? Is it a slip of tongue? Or, because I've been watching his shows. He doesn't normally make comments like that also. So, tell us what his case is before we go to the larger picture.
Thank you, Priya. Yeah, he's a friend of mine. I've been in touch with him and I've stood by him. I've stood by him because what's shocked me is comedians who I had some amount of respect for on TV, but today they're out of work, come on television, abuse him, call him a terrorist, and say he should be hung to death. And when I objected to this language, the comedian on television, on a very prominent news channel, tells me, do I enjoy watching my parents have sex? My father's no longer there. This is a person arguing morality on television and saying how Ranveer is immoral, how what he said is terrorism, and then comes and says this to me on national television. So this is the level that we've fallen for. We are all moralistic when it comes to others. Our morality goes for a toss when it comes to ourselves. Same as when we all don't want India to be a corrupt country, as long as SUHEL is not corrupt, KAVEREE is not corrupt, Priya is not corrupt. But if the cop catches me on the wrong side of the road, I'm okay giving him the 100 rupees and going away. So this is hypocrisy written large. Let me begin from where SUHEL ended. This was a private show, a ticketed show for a subscriber base of adults. It was marketed as dark humor. You don't like it, don't watch it. I don't for one like what he said. I think it was disgusting. I think it was crass. I think it was crap. But to want to jail him, Suhel's being kind at the Mumbai police. Let me give you all a breaking news. The Assam police has reached Mumbai. And since they didn't put him in Mumbai, they decided to find the gentleman who produced the show in Pune. Is this the only job the Assam police have? To go from Assam into Pune, into the IT area to find where somebody is? The question, therefore, to be asked is, what is free speech? Free speech ends where violence begins. That is the only line to be drawn. I don't like this show with Priya Sehgal. Please log out of it. Don't watch it. I don't like a movie. Leave the theater. I don't like a book, shut the book, or write a better book. I don't like a painting in an art gallery, go away. But I don't have the right to come to the NewsX studio and vandalize the studio, to vandalize the art gallery, to burn down the theater, to tear the book in
Yes.
public. I don't have that right. Write a better book, make a better film, do a better podcast, do better humor, do whatever you want. You can't threaten people. And suddenly everybody's moralistic on Ranveer. Where did the morals go when a jobless politician, who's a jobless poet who's masquerading as a politician, wished death for Saif Ali Khan's kids just because he did not use abusive language? Is that justified? What is hate speech? Let's first define that. Sar tan se juda is hate speech. Gaddaro ko goli maro is hate speech. Dark humor, as pervert as it is not violence. It's not provoking violence. There's a difference between the two. If as adults somebody wants to watch something, they can watch it. They don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But why is everybody else outraging? For a country which is the third highest consumer of porn, does it make it okay? No, it doesn't make it okay. I don't even watch porn. But the fact of the matter is, we are the third largest consumer of porn. There are producers who make soft porn, and they are hanging out with every chief minister, every minister, at every government function, and they're even awarded. There are people who make songs particularly in Punjab, on drugs and violence, glorifying it. What happens to them? This actually lead to violence. Why are we not talking about banning them? The fact is,
Yeah.
everybody's punching a person who's down. Has
Hmm.
Ranveer suffered? Yes, as Suhail said, or as you said, he was interviewing the top peoples in government. Nobody's going to even touch him with a barge pole. Is he going to perhaps suffer in terms of his other clout that he has? Perhaps he will. Perhaps this will even lead him to monetary gain. But that will be decided by we the people. The internet is democratic. It does not require a police state to now come in and guard. You cannot choose what, and the argument is, what if a minor watches this content? Well, then the parent should be responsible enough to see what the minor watches or not watches. If you're an adult, the argument ends. If you can't police what your child watches, why do you want the government to police what your child watches? What about the content on Instagram, which is the moms and sons, the fathers and daughters all grating on songs? I may or may not like it. What about that content? Who defines what is vulgar and not vulgar? Let me ask you
Okay.
that. Let me ask you
Hmm.
before I end out here. 20 years ago, there was a song, Sexy, 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 Mujhe Log Bole. It was a Karisma Kapoor song. There was outrage. The words were changed to Baby, 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 Mujhe Log Bole. Today, the word sexy is said complimentary. There was a song, Choli Ke Piche Kya Hai? There was outrage. The song was not put on television, though it was in the movie. Today, the song Choli Ke Piche is played everywhere. It's played in family functions. People are dancing on it. Whose morality? 20 years, 100 years ago, Kaveri and Priya, if you all showed your legs below your knees, you all would be considered vulgar. Today, you all are epitome of femininity. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, people who were gay, homosexuals, were illegal people, were criminals. Today, we accept that in society. Whose barometer of morality? Sohail's,
Okay.
Kaveri's, Priya's, or mine? And why your barometer of morality? That's the question we need to address.
Okay. Kaveri, internet is democratic, but the internet is also very upset and angry at just the whole, there are some, it's not religion or anything. Parents are what we hold holy. Something that he said has created an outrage throughout. But is this something that deserves an FIR action, the Assam police to go chasing him?
I think we are a republic of the offended and the outraged. I mean, that goes without saying. We love such things. We love this performative outrage. But I think the important thing to note is it comes from what has happened to journalism over the years as well. Why have YouTubers become the new media? Why are people lining up to give interviews to, big
Ranveer.
YouTubers? It's because they get audiences. And they have actually taken the place of what journalists were doing on television, which is, performing as journalists, performing as shock jocks. They were no longer journalists. They were behaving and acting out journalism and acting out being an anchor. So I think the slide began from there. And we have to note that, when we in our holier than thou fashion say that, oh, YouTubers have no gatekeepers, you were the gatekeepers. You allowed the gates to open and you allowed all this to start. So I think the slide began with that. The slide began with the kind of shows that became popular, whether it's a roadies or whether it's a big boss or, whether it's Splitsvilla. you have to listen to the kind of language and the kind of performances that happen there to understand why someone like Bear Biceps or AK Ranveer Allahabadiya or the other way around, why he exists. So that's one thing. The second thing I think which is very important is that we also are living in this age of man children, you know. I mean,
Mm.
you have these man children everywhere, whether it's Trump and Musk and Little Musk. You know, you have people who are actually normalizing bad behavior. They're normalizing the Nazi salute. They're normalizing words that were never in the public discourse. So when you're governed by these man children, what will the other little man children do? They will only follow these role models. So I think that's another very important thing to look at and see why does an animal succeed and you celebrate its success, where a hero is asking a woman to lick his boots, and that's all right. But something like what Ranveer is saying is not acceptable. So I think it's been a downward slide all these years. And occasionally we wake up when, say, the AIB did something similar with the roast that they did. We wake up and, there's this sudden outrage, but then we go back to sleep again and consume the same content. So, and the word content itself, I mean, it should not be called content. This is actually what is happening. This is contemporary politics, this is
Mm.
contemporary events, this is contemporary society.
Mm.
So this is who we are. And I think in a way what this has done is actually exposed, and actually it's put the sunlight on a very dark society that we are, and this is who we are. And actually Ranveer has, I think, done us a huge favor by telling the world that we are outraged by things like this, but the fact is that we have normalized it and we have accepted it. The minute a big boss contestant becomes a celebrity, becomes a huge star, you have
Mm.
already, uh, forgotten the lines that were drawn earlier between lowbrow, highbrow, what's good, what's not good. Those lines have all gone.
Yeah, that's a good point. As Suhail also said, is it the society that really
Yeah.
needs it? Says more about us than as about him. I'm going to take a quick break and then come to you for closing comments because we are, I think, short on
Yeah.
time. But I would like to get closing comments from everybody after a quick break. Hello and welcome back to a roundtable. We're discussing, well, of course, the controversy starting from Ranveer Allahabadia's comments, but the story really has gone as we began by talking about that. It's what it says about us and the content we like to consume. So, Suhail, if you want to add to what you said earlier.
Everyone wants to consume different kinds of content depending on the mood they are in or the place they are in. For
Hmm.
instance, I've stopped watching mainstream television and I only watch four channels. I watch Discovery, I watch Nat Geo, and I watch Netflix and MX Player. That's what I watch. Now, you might say that, oh, I have skewed taste. Good for you, because I also spend a lot of time reading. And I'm going
Yeah.
to be 62. I still do one book a day, and it's not difficult. But that's my choice. I cannot force my consumption choices on an entire nation of people. But yes, I can walk away when I believe that that content is not suitable to my mental faculties or to my belief system. Then I just walk away. For instance, I will never see anything which debases religions or which foments divisiveness. That's not me. I was born and raised in Calcutta. For me, this Hindu Muslim divide is atrociously silly and venomous to say the least. But that's us. You have to decide, Priya. And let me tell you, the critical role that we are all missing is the role of parenting, is the role of responsible accountability, is the role of our education system. I've always said Indians have a great education system, but a very poor knowledge delivery mechanism. Education is finite, it stops when you finish your college, whatever the hell. But your knowledge is unquenching. You cannot quench your thirst saying, oh, now I'm totally knowledgeable. But that's not who we've become. We're an attention deficit country. not only country, the world. Everyone wants to consume things in a rush. Everything has now become 1 minute. Earlier, Maggie noodles also took 2 minutes. Now, content has become 1 minute, and Kaveri is right. One man's content is another man's joke. There's a very famous American judge, and I've quoted him in my article, where he says, one man's vulgarity is another man's lyric. The name of the judge was Justice John Marshall Harlan in a judgment, Cohen versus California. And it's true today. You may not agree with me, but do you have to be disagreeable? So content that creates disagreeability, whether it's violence, thought abuse, those are the things we need to worry about. And none of us has the right to preach. We cannot tell people, oh, aap yahi karoge. The state policing, that Orwellian structure of 1984, which George Orwell talks about, cannot be allowed to return. The big brother watching cannot happen. And it won't happen in this kind of a society. Yeah, 1 minute. You will stop RANVEER ALLAHBADIA. How will you prevent underground stand-up comics from performing as they do in most states or countries which are governed through dictators?
Okay. So outrage it, but don't put the police after him. Is that what you're saying, TEHSEEN?
Yeah, coming to where Suhail lived, Animal Farm is one of my favorite books. But I know a lot of people and my age, when we started reading, found Animal Farm very dark or they were quite shocked by it. So whose judgment of what is right? It's a masterpiece today. Whose judgment? And I come back to it. There is an Andrew Tate who makes content in abroad somewhere in Europe, chauvinistic content that should, quite frankly, shocks a lot of people. How are you going to prevent his content from coming? What is it define? How do you define what is a ban? The government thinks it banned TikTok. TikTok's available on the darknet through VPN, but all the content of TikTok, all the content is on Instagram. Every single thing. What are you going to ban? How are you going to ban? Why do you want the government in your bedroom, in your living room, in your digital phones? The way that the internet works is you don't like something, you don't consume it. That's if you're an adult. Free choice. If you're younger, your parents have to moderate what you watch. And I agree with Sohail. That has to be the parents' job. One last thing. Where does our education system go from here? I disagree with Sohail. We don't have a good education system because we're not preparing people for the future. We're still stuck in the 1970s, 80s, 90s in an education system where we are in the world of AI and very soon quantum computers. Information will be available on your watch, on your lens, on your specs. My son will not have to know that the capital of Pakistan is Islamabad. He wouldn't have to mug it up because that content, the minute he thinks what is the capital of Pakistan, will come in his watch. So how do you moderate content for them should be the conversation. We're not even leading on that part. How do we give them information that's useful? We're not even on that part to talk. It's fine to go in fancy AI conferences. What is it that is going to practically help us? We don't even discuss that.
KAVEREE, you're lost. And has the government actually, scored a self goal by, because we are already outraged and we're already censoring him. Do we need to do more than that?
Oh, I think what we've done to him is more than enough. I think it's very interesting to observe, and I think Tehseen mentioned this earlier, the number of people who've actually put him under the bus. And it includes some very powerful people who were only too happy to celebrate his success earlier. And I
Correct.
think that is really what says a lot about us. Just about a month ago, he was the poster boy of content creators. He was the poster boy of YouTubers. He was beloved by this government. The top people in this government have given him interviews. And then he makes a mistake or what is perceived to be a mistake, and out he goes. How quickly the night changes, and how quickly our idea of who's a celebrity and who's not a celebrity, who's important, who's not important. And I think it says a lot about people in power. And by that, I just don't mean the politicians. I mean all people in power, celebrities as well, who are only too happy to shove one of their own under the bus when it's inconvenient. And I think that really says a lot about who we are, that we worship such people and we, think that they are role models. I don't think so. And I think that says a lot about them as well as us, that we are in this situation where we have to worship people like them, people like Ranveer, I think it's what we have done to ourselves, actually. I think we have made ourselves as journalists irrelevant, and that's really sad.
That's a good note to end on. I think that is something we all agree on also, that this case tells us more about ourselves than about
Well
Ranveer.
said,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that, as you said, Suhail. But at the thank you so much, and we're going to keep debating
There's
this as
just one thing.
one
Sorry.
controversy to the other. Yeah.
There's a member of parliament who messaged me
Hmm.
asking me to tell Ranveer that the person should be on Ranveer's show. That member of parliament, Kaveri, is right, led the mob lynch online against Ranveer. Until some time ago, that member of parliament, and still have the WhatsApps, kept asking me, I want to be on this show. And he was in London at that point. He was in UK at that point, so he couldn't do it. And that MP is leading the mob lynching and saying this is crass.
I'm not surprised.
There you go. You said it. Thank you so much
I
for
can
this
even tell you which
conversation.
party he's from.
Yeah,
You
I think we can get.
can. You can. You're right. You got it, Sohel. You just got it.
Okay, on that note, we'll wait for some more delicious thing after off gossip. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.